Hello, the purpose of this video is to make sure that submitting assignments in Canvas is as easy for you as possible. Please keep in mind that the deadline for an assignment is just that. It is not the recommended time to start turning in files. It is rather the last date time to get them in and get them in on time. Thus, you need to plan ahead to avoid late penalties. Unless there is a confirmed issue with Canvas, just some minor little issue that you run into is not enough for you to get a grade extension. We'll talk more about how you would confirm a legitimate problem later on. Also note that the latest version of Chrome is the recommended browser for Canvas. So if you ever have trouble turning in files, just closely follow these instructions. First of all, make sure you named the file the way your instructor wants it named. For my classes, you just go to the home page and it's explained there. Make sure you are turning in the correct file type. So you need to read the instructions. And if, for example, I'm asking for a JPEG and an AI file, and you try to turn in a PDF, there's a good chance that the system will actually do you a favor and reject the PDF. JPEG is correct. With the E inside there is not correct. I'll show you how to avoid both of these things in a second. Also watch out for double file extensions. So if you're working on a logo, .jpeg is not correct. It really makes it look like you don't know what you're doing in the software. So let me give you a quick example of how to avoid those. So let's say I'm in any given software program, at least any of Adobe's. I'm going to go up to File, Save As. I'm going to make sure I name the file correctly. So I'm going to put in my last name, followed by my first name. Let's say this was a logo. Now, notice that it says .jpeg for me already. Now, the only reason is because that was the last thing selected. If something else was selected, I am not, and I repeat, not going to now type in a period and then JPEG. All I'm going to do, or I should say a good rule of thumb, is stay on the left side of the period, right, when you're naming the file. And then you go down to Format, choose the format. If it was a JPEG in this example, it's going to change it for you, and it puts in the proper extension, not JPEG. And then you simply save it. Make sure you know where you're saving it to. Now let's look at an example of submitting a file or files. I'm going to put this on student view so it looks as much as possible like what you will see. So for a given assignment, eventually you'll get down to the bottom here when the assignment is due, and always check the due date before you submit anything to make sure you're in the right place and that the due date matches up with the module that you're in. Anyway, you'll get to the bottom. It will probably look like this. And the way I'm emphasizing the word probably is because it could also look more like what you're seeing here. The reason that that might happen is A, your instructor did not turn on what is called assignment enhancements, either because they don't like it or because there might be a problem with assignment enhancements, and we'll all be looking at the other version. Doesn't really matter. The instructions that I'm about to give you are relatively the same. The only thing is if it doesn't allow you to drag multiple files in, then you'll just have to submit them one at a time. I think that's the biggest difference with the two, but it's very obvious, as you can see here, that it looks like you choose a file and then you choose another file, whereas the one that we have turned on currently in our class is more of a friendlier looking environment where you can just drag the multiple files in at one time. When this first came out, you could only drag multiple files in at one time. In other words, you couldn't just select one file and then select another file. I believe that's fixed, but it's still the best way to do it if you need to select multiple files, is just do exactly that. Go to a folder where you've saved the multiple files and name them correctly, and then just simply click on the first one, click on the last one, hold down the Shift key, and that way you'll have them both selected, and then you just drag them over here, and you can see that works pretty much flawlessly every time. Now again, following instructions is very important, so only submit multiple files if the assignment instructions indicate to do so. You will be graded down and or asked to resubmit as a late assignment if you submit unnecessary and or incorrect files. So sometimes students just throw like 15 files at me, either because they don't know what's going on, or they think that if they load me up that I'll be too fatigued to give them a bad grade because they didn't complete the work. But I just don't deal with stuff like that. I'll just say, hey, you were asked to submit one file, or you were asked to submit 3 files, or whatever it is. Please resubmit. Okay, so once you do that, then you just simply come over here and click Submit Assignment. So just take a quick look, make sure everything looks okay. Click Submit Assignment. Now, there's a couple oddities when you want to confirm that you submitted the right files. My suggestion is just be really organized before you submit the files, and then you won't have to worry about trying to confirm. But sometimes we wake up the next morning and go, oh my God, did I turn in the right stuff? One thing, let me just jump ahead to something I was going to say later, is I only grade the most recent submission. So we'll come back to item number 4 here. So if you make a submission error, simply resubmit. The only time I look back at multiple submissions is explained below. So let's come back to here. So let's say you want to check your files. First of all, they look truncated, so it's kind of hard to tell if you downloaded them properly or not. So maybe you think, okay, well, let me just download them. That's probably what Steve does, right? Okay, so it's going to go ahead and download these, or at least it downloaded one of them. Let me see what happens if I click. Maybe I have to click over here first and try that again. Not 100% sure, but let's see what happens. Yeah, it looks like I got the other one now. But there's a pretty weird thing here that you'll see. So I'm going to open these up in my Finder. This is where you'll start to question your insanity. You'll think, hey, did I accidentally download a PDF? And Steve told me not to put double extensions. Well, I don't know why, but when you try to check it that way, it adds PDF. Here's a bit of good news, though, is the file is usable. If you get rid of the PDF at the end, just go in here and edit it. It is still a usable actual file like you submitted in the first place. So it does work. So like I said, I guess the best thing is just be confident that you did it right in the first place. Now let me just show you, just out of curiosity on your sake, because I know you're dying to see this. This is how those assignments show up in what I actually grade. So you can see the PDF is not there. So exactly what I submitted is exactly what exactly what you submit. It will be exactly what your instructor gets. Should your instructor tell you that you need to resubmit the assignment, resubmit all of the required files, not just the one that was perhaps missing, which again goes back to this thing that most instructors will only view and grade your last submission. All right, so when do we have to worry about multiple submissions? And notice we're not talking about multiple files, we're talking about when you actually click the submit button. That would fall under this category. So if the above steps did not work for you, then and only then will I allow multiple submissions. So basically what you'd have to do is make 2 submissions and then tell me in the comments that you did that. So what would that look like? Let's just go back here to this particular assignment. So let's say in this example, we're going to try a new attempt. We're going to submit, in this case, just 1 file at a time. because it is just not working for you if you download them together. So we're going to submit. We're going to click on New Attempt. We're going to go back to our folder. Then we're going to upload the one that we didn't upload the first time. We're going to click Submit again. Then we are going to go up here to Add Comment, and we're going to say something like Professor or Steve or whatever the case is. I had to make 2 submissions, maybe the reason or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I had to make 2 submissions. Okay. And then send comment. And then let me show you what that will look like on my end, just so you get the full. So if I'm expecting 2 files and I only have 1, in order for you to not get a bad grade, I'm going to look down here and I'm going to, okay, if I see this comment, Professor, I had to make 2 submissions. So I'm going to know I need to download this, which is, a bit of a hassle. That's why we never try to do this. And then I'm going to go up to the very last. And you can see there's actually a 3rd one here, but since you told me that you did 2, I'm just going to download the very last one, and then I'm going to go to the one before that, and I'm going to download this one as well. All right, so those are the 2 instructions if you should run into that problem. There's still yet a 3rd possibility that could happen, and this usually only happens if you have just tried uploading a gazillion files over the semester and you're starting to take up too much space on the server, and or you're trying to upload a huge file, which please look at your files before you upload those. For the most part, for things like process checks, you should not be uploading files that are more than 2 to 3 meg. The only time you're going to be downloading or uploading, I should say, something to me that is really big is probably on a very important project where I ask for the Photoshop document, but that should be real obvious in the stream of instruction. So to handle the problem, if neither of those 2 work, basically what you do is you upload your files to Canvas in a different place first, and then you access them from the submission. So here are the written steps. I'm going to show you these as well. So inside of the class, let's see, I'm just stick with the same class here. You're going to have a little button underneath the logo for Saddleback that says Account. You're going to click on that, and you're going to go to Files. Now, your settings are going to look a little bit different in here, but the idea is that we're getting to Files, and then you are going to upload the files. Now, if you look in here and you see a whole bunch of files that you are just like, wow, I don't need this stuff anymore, then you should probably start by clearing out some of these files. And you can do that just simply by, let's see if we can select multiple ones. Oh, no, that didn't work very well, did it? There used to be a little thing here that you would click on and it would allow you to select multiples. But since that's not showing up, we'll just do it the... Oh, it looks like these are all selected already is what the problem is. Well, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, if you just want to do them one at a time, you just come over here and you click delete and it'll go away. Yeah. And I'm probably by the time you're using it, you will see like a little check mark over here maybe that you can click, and then you'll be able to do this faster by selecting several and then deleting them all at once. And then once you've cleared up some space in here, and even if the case is you get in here and you're like, no, I need all these are things I've turned in recently, I want all of them, doesn't mean you won't be able to upload more stuff here. This is a much more robust file saving system than just trying to upload them directly. So you would click on upload, you would navigate to your folder. Now the last time that I did this, it would only allow, I believe, you to upload one file at a time. But let's see if that's been enhanced. So we're going to click open. Oh, it did. Okay, so that's a plus. All right, so now these files are in here, right? And then you just want to remember how they are named. And then we're up to step 3. Now go into the assignment in Canvas, and instead of dragging files or uploading files, you are going to upload files by clicking on Canvas files. So let's take care of those 2 steps. Okay, and either you'll be at the crisp, clean screen, but most likely if you've gone to this part, you've already tried, and so you're making a new attempt. But either way, you'll see this screen, and then you will see choose a submission type. You're going to go here to Canvas Files. It might be also under More. No, I don't think so. Okay, so you're going to go to Canvas Files, and now you're going to go to your files. And now keep in mind, this may look a little different when you go in here, but ultimately you want to try to find something that is my files or similar to files, and then, you know, which one of these? Well, we'll just try probably this one, then maybe we have to go into this one, and then we're looking for the one that we input in here. And then we are going to find that file. Now this, let's see if we can select more than one. No, it does not look like it, and that's what I remember from before, is you had to do these one at a time. So then of course you're going to have to submit the assignment and then do the new attempt, just like I explained in the last steps, and then let me know in the comments that you had to make multiple submissions. If that's the case, could just be one large file that you're trying to upload this way. Yeah, this was in my notes from last time. So as of unfortunately, as of now, this option does not support multiple file turn-ins, nor does it support zip files. So from what I understand, you could bring in a zip file, but it won't work. It like, in other words, by the time it gets to my end, I cannot open up your zip file. So just keep that in mind. And this is what we just talked about, if you have to do multiple submissions. All right, and then we get to the very last thing, and that is if you still cannot submit your files, copy my email address from the syllabus. Reach out to Canvas support. Remember, you've got this little icon over here that will allow you to do so easily. If it turns out there is an actual problem with Canvas, ask them to email me explaining. Then email me your files letting me know that this is why you had to do it this way. This has only happened 2 times in the last many years that there have been legitimate Canvas submission errors. One time, the person from Canvas support that the students reached out to promptly emailed me, and the students, of course, were not marked late for the assignment because they did everything they possibly could. Another time, the Canvas person claimed that they were not allowed to email instructors, which obviously I know that's not true. I mean, you can tell them that, but if they still refuse, just write down the person's name that you spoke to, when you spoke with them, and then I should be able to verify if there was a problem, and then again, you would not be marked down late. Again, refer to the very top statement up here. Work ahead. Remember not to wait till the last minute to turn things in. And the last thing I want to cover in this video is the fact that I give an actual practice Canvas submission assignment. And I just want to tell you what kind of issues you could run into doing this. Whenever I put files for you to download, sometimes Canvas puts a little arrow next to them, which makes it extremely easy to download them. You just go over here and you click on that, and you'll see that there, that one's been downloaded for me already. The JPEG doesn't have that for whatever reason. So then I click on it and it brings me here, and now I'm thinking like, how do I download this? Turns out most of the time just by clicking on it, it'll download it, and you can see that happened again very quickly. But you could also maybe have to right click on it, and you could go save image as, and then save it to where you know you'll be able to find it. You know, you should be able to get that far. I mean, last make another testing JPEG on your own and submit it, or take a screenshot of this and boy, I guess it depends how much knowledge you have at this point, but turn it into a JPEG. But I don't know, everybody knows how to come up with a JPEG, so and everyone should be able to figure out how to download this, so I don't anticipate a problem there. But then once you've downloaded them, in the case of a Mac, you'd go to your downloads folder. In the case of Windows, you should be able to figure out where your downloaded folders are going with some Google searching if you have to, and then you're just going to simply rename them. It's a little bit different depending on what operating system you are, but usually you can right-click on it and select to rename. A nice little shortcut on a Mac is if you click on a file, not double-click, or even like multi-click to kind of get inside there, which is another way to rename it. But if you just simply click and hit the return key, it allows you, and notice it's very convenient in that it only highlights to the left of the period, so you're not going to mess with the extension when you rename it. And then once you end up out here in kind of the JPEG Never Land, doesn't seem to be an easy way to get back. So unfortunately, you just have to click on modules again, go back inside the module that you were working on, which in case was this one. And then if you have the files prepared from there, you should be golden, and you know every possible scenario that could come up when you try to submit.